Champions, yet again. The Indian cricket team completed a 4-1 series win by absolutely drubbing England by an innings and 64 runs in Dharamshala. This now has continued their dominance at home for 12 years now. 17 consecutive series at home they have won. This kind of picture that you see reminds me of 2017 when India had completed the perfect season, winning in series against New Zealand, winning a 5-test series against England, winning against Bangladesh, winning a 4-test series versus Australia. Now at home they have managed to absolutely decimate England 4-1. And Rahul Dravid, the head coach of the Indian cricket team, came for the press conference and he had some very interesting things to say about the development that happened not just in the series but also in the side of what happened at Dharamshala. You know that after the end of the test match, Jai Shah, the BCCI secretary, had announced a new test cricket incentive by which players who play more than 75% of the games in a season, assuming that the season is 9 tests in total, they will be rewarded 45 lakhs extra per game in addition to the existing 15 lakhs that is there as a test match fee. So if you play more than 7, 60 into 7, you get about 4 crores. But Dravid had a very interesting take on the test cricket incentive bid that the PCCI had given. Because he made it very clear, like, you want to play for India, right? He clearly mentions, I really hope money is not the incentive to play test cricket. When asked about what do you think about this move by the BCCI, he just admitted in a very diplomatic way that it is a way how hard test cricket is. And it is a recognition. It is really nice to see that it is a recognition that it is a hard format. I hope everyone wants to play test cricket. Let us make no mistake about it. Test cricket is hard. Rohit Sharma also made it a point that test cricket is one of the hardest formats. In Ranchi, he had made it very abundantly clear that test cricket is the pinnacle and whoever wants to play in that will have to earn their place back. Dravid, look at the generation from where Dravid is coming from. Dravid, Tendulkar, Lakshman, Ganguly, Sehwag, Gambhir, Dhoni also to a certain extent. Everybody, even Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, generations upon generations value test cricket in India. Now this incentive comes on the back of BCCI and Jai Shah noticing a worrying trend that players are prioritizing IPL and white ball cricket. But that is the same thing that the BCCI had done for 10 years. Suddenly now, backdating it from 2022 onwards, yes, you are trying to undo the damage that we have all been pointing it out. But it does take time. Already with the onslaught of white ball cricket and with the leagues that are flourishing all over the globe, how on earth can you ensure that test cricket has its place? This is one way in the course correction of it. Just as Dravid stated, it is a recognition that yes, test cricket is hard, not everyone can make it. But he really sincerely hopes that just because for the money factor, skills and quality do not get compromised in the Indian cricket team. That is why, yes, keep test cricket and first class cricket as your pinnacle, but do not just make it about money. The BCCI has had to do this, take the bull by its horns because white ball cricket and the IPL has flourished and put first class cricket in India into the back burner. So that is why this test cricket incentive is a very developing story which we will get to know a lot of reactions about it later. But Dravid is very happy about the fact that India has managed to sustain their near 11-year dominance in test cricket at home, despite the fact that foreigners are coming to India on such a consistent basis. For 2.5 months, the world descends in India because of the IPL. And Dravid pointed that out. We have not lost tests in spite of the fact that exposure foreigners get in this decade due to IPL is a big factor. Lot of foreigners are there for 2.5 months. In the past, no one could do that. Lot of our Indian guys cannot do that. I mean, just look at it. Where in the world can you get a team or any players from a certain foreign country spend time in India for 2.5 months? The IPL, most of Australia played, most of New Zealand played, England played, South Africa played, West Indies played, Sri Lanka plays it. Despite all of that, India have sustained their test dominance unlike any in the world. Compare it to the 90s, compare it to 2000s. Where was the time to ensure players went to a foreign country and got acclimatized for 2 months? Never. Despite all of that, when was the last time India lost a test series? 2012. That was just the beginning of the IPL. Prior to that, they had lost in 2004 when the IPL was not there. They had lost in 1999 and 2000 to South Africa and 2004 to Australia. Then 2012 in England, which was a wake-up call. But now, ever since 2013 till now, you have whitewashed Australia 4-0. You have also managed to whitewash South Africa 3-0. You have managed to beat England 4-0, 3-1, 4-0 in 3 separate tours after 2012. Despite the IPL prominence, yet teams cannot crack the code in India when it comes to test cricket. And that is the one thing Dravid is really happy about it. You won despite foreigners from all over the globe, all the players getting exposure in Indian conditions, knowing the country for 2.5 months. We have seen 5 debutants for India in this series. All of them, barring Rajat Patidar, have done a great job. And Dravid was quick to credit Ajit Agarkar and his team of selectors. Normally, Ajit Agarkar and the selectors do not get the credit that is there for India. But now, in the press conference in Dharamshala, Dravid credited them. He stated, I like to give credit to Ajit Agarkar and his team. As a coach and captain, we don't get to see domestic cricket. They are always on tour, they are always with India commitments. How can they see face to face, on the ground, how can they get to see the domestic players? Ajit Agarkar and his selection committee is doing that. We rely on Ajit and his team for the inputs as far as domestic players are concerned. They guided us in the right direction. And he was really adamant that this particular series is once again the summation how A tours are important. Because A tours is the bridge between the Ranji Trophy and all the other domestic tournaments that are there for the broader international arena. And most of the people who came in, they had played in the series, England Lions versus India A. A tours is the primal thing which drives the talent in this country. So Ajit Agarkar and his team went out to all the zones, saw the talent and zeroed in on these group of players. And that is why the work done behind the scenes by Ajit Agarkar deserves a lot of credit. Yes, the system can fall apart if you have a bad series. But so far, for 11 years, you have not had a bad series in India when it comes to test cricket. Now, where did England lose it? For 2 tests, they stood toe to toe. But from the 3rd test onwards, it was one-way street when it came to India. Where did England lose it? That was the question that was posed to Rahul Dravid. Now, Dravid had a very good answer to that. He stated, England came with an experienced batting lineup. You saw 3 of the players had more than 100 tests, Root, Stokes, Bairstow. But their inexperience was in their bowling. Barring a Jimmy Anderson, Mark Wood hasn't played much in India for test matches. Tom Hartley, Shoaib Bashir, Rehan Ahmed all were making their first tours to India. Jack Leach's absence proved to be pivotal, but even with Leach around, they lost 3-1 the last time. Root, as your only spinner, could not have done much. They had the ascendancy with bat in hand at that time in the first 2 tests. Our experience was in the bowling and that got us in the contest. As the series wore on, the class of Ashwin, Jadeja, Kuldeep, Bumrah, Siraj, Akashdeep to a certain extent, everybody chipped in, whereas Hartley, Bashir were all found out. Rehan Ahmed also could not play. He went back home for personal reasons. Anderson was the only man who ensured that he kept England in the contest. Apart from that, everybody struggled. The unit struggled, compounded by the fact that the experienced batting lineup of Stokes, Bairstow all let them down. Root had some salvation in Ranchi and in Dharamshala, but apart from that, he too was a failure. But he gave yet another update on Shreyas Iyer and Ishan Kishan. They are out of the contract system, but Dravid yet again very clearly has mentioned. They are always in the mix. Every player is in the mix. They have to do only a simple thing. If they are playing domestic, they are in the mix. Simple. Iyer is now going to play another domestic game. That is against Mumbai tomorrow against Vidarbha. He's been training. So that's why that's a good sign. Ishan Kishan, see, if he plays domestic cricket, he can maybe get a chance. I don't decide the contracts. He's very clear on that. It's a very big thing. The roles are clear. Dravid and Rohit Sharma decide their opinion on the 15 and Rohit picks the 11. The selectors and the chairman of selectors are the ones who decide who gives the contracts, who gets the contract. The selectors and board decided. One is out of the picture, no one, I will say, no one is out of the picture. I hope they get fit and play cricket. No one is out of the picture. So, once again, Ishan and Shreyas are not out of the mix. Sure, they may have lost their central contract now, but maybe come March, they'll be back in it. That is the thing. Play domestic, make yourself fit, make yourself available for domestic cricket, you will get selected. If you get good performances also. But here, Dravid towards the last part of the press conference had a very, very interesting thing to say about the domestic structure. Now, this comes on the backdrop of Shardul Thakur making comments that the turnaround time for a domestic game, after the semi-final ended, you just have a 4-day turnaround period for the final. Knowing a country like India with so many matches and with the travel which is very tedious, Dravid suggested something very radical, revamping of the domestic system, because he stated, we need to look at whether all the tournaments that is conducted is relevant, because your domestic season, actually if you look at it, what happened last year began in June, with Devdar Trophy also being there, with Duleep Trophy also being there, and then you had Vijay Hazare and Syed Mushtaq Ali happening, and then after that it's the 2-3 month long Ranji system, and after that you have the IPL. You don't have an off season in India, and that is why we need to look at whether all the tournaments that is conducted is important. Is it a dig on whether Duleep can happen or Devdar can happen? Because out of all the formats, Duleep and Devdar have been left behind. And don't forget, after this, you also have the Irani Trophy also. Rest of India versus the winner of the Ranji. So, there needs to be an all-round review. Some of the guys who come in say how tough the domestic schedule is, especially with the amount of travel in India. India is not a small country, it is huge. Traveling 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours by flight also is a very tedious process. Domestic players might not get that much of a leeway. International players might get a leeway when it comes to flight accommodation and everything. But for others, from Jammu Kashmir, if you have to go to Chennai, it is a tedious task indeed. Now, Kuldeep Yadav. 7 years ago in Dharamshala, he made his debut. 11 tests later, he once again ensured that he was the key player. 5 wickets, blew the game open. But Kuldeep, whether he'll be selected on a consistent basis here and away, Dravid just had no answer to that. He said, Kuldeep has worked extremely hard on his batting. That has been fantastic. Now, overseas, why he can't play all the spinners? What happens when we go overseas is what we have to see on a yearly basis. We don't get wickets that allow us to play more than one spinner. Where in the Sena countries can you play more than 2 spinners? Sometimes you don't even play 2 spinners. You don't even play a spinner. Now, imagine an Ashwin who's played 100 tests and 500 plus wickets has to sit out because there is no composition. The team composition goes awry. Jaddu will have to play because of his batting prowess. If Jaddu plays, there's no place for Aksar, there's no place for Ashwin in a Sena country. Here at home, Ashwin and Jadeja have been bona fide legends. Aksar has been fantastic with the performance and the chances that he's got. How could they have fit in a Kuldeep? It is the unfortunate, bitter truth. The competition for places is so intense, one guy who does well will have to sit out. So, in a way, this series was the summation of what new India, young India's dynamism is. Confident players with not much of experience, they can actually go the whole distance and ensure they handle pressure better. One hopes that this is the start of something very good in Indian cricket because you're still recovering from some losses in the ICC events and that hurt will always remain. But as far as the WTC is concerned, India is on top with 68.5 percentage points. Can they now, third time lucky, ensure that this ICC World Test Championship jinx is off their back? One hopes so. Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this live. We'll be back with more updates on Sports Today. Tap that bell icon so you know when we go live. And don't forget, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Bye-bye.